All right, how's everyone doing? Welcome along to this episode where I'm chatting with Richard Deyn, all the way from the UK. So, Richard, you're very welcome along, and do you want to share a small bit about yourself and what you do?
Thanks for having me on. It's very kind of you. So I run a guitar school in the east of Suffolk. Actually, I'm on the border. I'm on the borderland between Essex and Suffolk. So before here, which I've been running for about 5 or 6 years, I was the teacher slash consultant for Gibson. So I worked for Gibson Guitars UK, not globally, sadly, but
Yeah.
UK. And I've always taught. Since I left school, I've always been a pro player. Always. So I was in loads of bands. I went to the Guitar Institute when I was 19, back in 19 something. And I've always I've always played. I've done albums. I've recorded in just about every situation, played everywhere. And I never found learning easy. It was never a natural thing for me. I don't quite know why I wanted to do it, but it wasn't easy. I couldn't clap in time. It was that bad. But I stuck with it, and I think what that does now is it makes me a good teacher because if there was a problem to overcome, I've been there. I've been there, and I still managed to achieve quite a lot of success just through playing. So if someone comes to the school, there's never any judgment. We just help them get the goals they want. And the same with the other teachers. So I've got two or three other teachers here, and I need to make sure they're a player first and that they can teach. We get a lot of inquiries for people that want to teach, but sadly, if they haven't played in the wild, they're not for us. We only want practical knowledge, right? So you could learn so many things from a book, but you don't know what you need to know and what you can forget. But we do. Because we've
Nice.
been doing it for 4 million years, so it's easier to distill it down.
That's cool. And can I ask, I'm curious, so somebody approaches you about becoming a teacher, how do you send them a test student, or do you sit in with them, or do you just pick up a vibe, or how do you know?
I wouldn't test them with a student. If someone wants to teach, I need to know what they've done up to that point where they called me,
Yeah,
or I've called them, and I need to know that they've had enough experience as a player. I need to know that they're a listener, a decent person, and I need to know that they can break down information. And you can hear that, right? You can hear that just in someone's conversation. They don't. Psychologists say how you do anything is how you do everything.
yeah, love that.
Like how you approach cooking is how you might approach driving, is how you might approach meeting a new friend. It's all the same stuff. So yeah, you pick up a vibe on someone. I'm quite good at reading people and body language, and you know, it,
Nice.
it's a skill you develop.
Yeah. It's a good one. And with the, like, speaking of mindset and things like that, how do you incorporate mindset into your own teaching?
It's it's everything for us. It's
Mm,
everything. The students, when they sign up, when they join us, they get this little booklet.
yeah,
That's not all they get. But what this booklet has is it's got the frameworks in it that, as a teacher, right? You're always drawing out the same chords. You're always writing the same scales. There's always reference charts and pages you need. So rather than write it out every single lesson, we just had it printed into this little book. And the first two pages are this, I'll show you. So page one, and I've used this exact page for probably 20 years. The questions are evergreen, like you never need to change them.
yeah,
So we've got that, my ultimate guitar dream, and I'll
nice.
zip it up so people can see what they need to ask themselves, and then the commitment. So that's the very
Lovely.
first page. And then the second one is there's four questions. So, and I tend to start with this one, these four questions, and then if it's tricky, we dive into the previous page. So it sounds really obvious, right? But it's amazing how many people don't do it. You need to know where you want to go. So for students, that would be what songs you want to play, what bands you want to copy, what solos you want to learn. Then you need to know where you are. And that's the tricky bit, right?
Yeah.
Most people see things worse than they are, not as they are,
Mm,
as in life, right? So it'll be things like, oh, it's always happening to me. What, you mean it happened like once before?
Yeah, yeah, always.
Always, it's always happening to me. Yeah, what did I do to deserve it? Um, so once you know where you are, and it's usually things like I'm motivated. I'm inspired to play this. It might be, yeah, I've got a few chords down and I need to work on my changes. That's as it is. That's not worse than it is.
Mm.
Once you know where you're going and you know where you are, of course, it's up to the teacher to figure out the straightest line between those 2 points, right? But then what we ask them is, why are those goals important? It's so interesting. If you ask most people what they want, they'll give you a list of what they don't want,
Yeah, oh, 100%.
right?
Yeah. Did you ever hear that book, The Start With Why, Simon Sinek?
No, but that sounds like what we're doing here.
Yeah, man. Yeah, check it out. It's really good. It's really good. Yeah, and what sort of answers do people generally give when you ask them the why?
Well, they give surface answers. So let's say, a great example, someone would write down what your goals, and it might be, I want to read music. And you go, okay, why do you want to read music? Or tabs, usually it's tabs, right?
Yeah.
For our people, tabs is the way to go, right? So what do you want? I want to learn how to read tabs. Why? Because I want to be in a band. Okay, so what you want is to be in a band. So we need a different why to that. Because I mean, you'll see it as well, right? I'm sure people second guess what they need in terms of their toolkit to get their goal.
Yeah.
And in life, how many people think, well, you've got to go to school and get your GCSEs to get a job, to blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't know about you, but my peer group, there's barely anyone I know that got a job because of school. They got
Yeah,
a job,
same as.
yeah, in spite of school. So it's the same with us. You don't need to read music to be in a band, as a very specific example, right? So then you say, right, so your goal is to be in a band. Why is that important? And then they might say, well, I think it's cool. Well, it is cool, but why do you want to do it? And when you dig down, and it's a bit of a skill, right? But you have to help them dig down. You'll get to things like, because I want to connect to the music in a new way, because I want to connect with a sense of camaraderie with my peers. I want to feel significant on stage. Like, if people are really honest, these are the things they would say.
Yeah.
What they think they should say is, well, I just want to play guitar in a band. That's not enough. It's not enough. And unless you're slightly aware of why you want it, it's luck if you get anywhere. But if you know what you want and specifically why you want it, then you're onto a winner, because that drives you. That drives you.
Yeah,
Like at
that's
home,
good.
right, with the kids. What do you need to do? I need to do the laundry. I hate doing the laundry. But why do you want to do it? Well, what it does is it keeps everyone clean and fresh, and they're proud to go out. So what you really want is self-esteem and pride. What you've got to do is the laundry. Do you know what I mean? But when you
Yeah.
change your mind on why you're doing it, everything changes. And then the last question we ask them are the capabilities needed.
Ah,
And of
yeah.
course, we don't just ask them, we kind of help them. So the capability wouldn't be to read tab, to tune the guitar, to learn a scale. Capabilities would be, well, I need to be kinder to myself. I need more patience. I need to find people that have got the result I want. Do you see what I mean? So it's a whole
Yeah, and
different set
model
of
it.
capability. And all of these, of course, you could ask these questions for anything. It's not just a guitar set of questions. They're like real world questions. But when you put them onto guitar, you get more self-motivated students. You get more consistent results. You get people that when they are frustrated, they know that you do one of two things. You either take a breath and try again, or you leave it for next week or tomorrow. Because people's rules will kill them, won't they?
Yeah.
The rules like, I should have it already.
Oh,
The
yeah,
rules
the
like, if I
word.
can't, the weirdest rule, right? The weirdest rule is, if I can do it with my eyes closed, then I've got it. What does that even mean? I love that one. Yeah. And questions you get as a teacher. How fast can you play? What do you mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The best one from the kids is here is, do you live here? I love
Oh
that
yeah,
one.
that's a great one. Or is this what you do?
Yeah, that's an amazing one. Yeah, that's an amazing one. Do you do this for a living? Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. And
Yeah,
like that's so cool that the questions matter so, and like and the quality of the questions, because sometimes students do ask themselves the wrong, like going, why am I messing this up all the time, and why this and why that, and like,
yeah.
speaking of self-motivation, and in the age of the internet, this is something I've asked every teacher I've chatted with, because it's something I'm just seeing everywhere. Like, in terms of focus, do you find, now you mostly teach adult students, you're saying, and do you find a lot of adults going online and learning bits of things and bits of songs and coming into you going, how do I fix this? Or do you try and keep them on the method as much as you can?
Um, yeah, one of the biggest reasons people would call the school is they've learned lots of bits and they've understood a little bit of all of them, nothing complete on any of them. And yeah, I always joke and say that guitarists know 1,000 intros and no songs. Like,
That's brilliant. That's a quote of
right?
ages.
Yeah, you're like, we'll learn the cool bit, like the smoke on the water bit or the sweet child bit. Okay, so let's join a band. Well, how does the rest of the song go? There's more. So yes, is the answer. Yeah, people have done dabbling, in lots of little bits, and then we help them put it together. The the method we have, it's more like a set of frameworks than it is a prescribed method. So one of the frameworks, of course, is you need to know why you're doing that
Yeah.
and get your head straight. Then there's a lot of other frameworks, but there's patterns. There's common pain patterns with people, and there's two really that I see. That there's the truth, and then there's the beliefs. So the truths would be, I've learned loads of songs, but only bits. So can you help me build a repertoire? And the philosophy we have is all about songs. Like have you got kids? Have you got any young kids?
No, I have a
Right.
dog.
You've ducked it. You've ducked the landmine. Okay. So when you have kids, you read them a bedtime story when they're, well, as soon as you can, speak to them, right? So what you never do is you don't teach them about grammar. You don't teach them about past participles or what a verb is. You just tell them a story. And the traditional way of teaching, not with the contemporary guitars at all, but the traditional classical way, and they still do it, is they teach the kids the alphabet and the grammar before they read them a story.
Yeah.
That's like hitting a wok. It doesn't make any sense. But if you learn the music, then you can apply the theory. You go, well, all the songs you've done, well, let's look at all the chords in it. Look, they're in a family. They're built together, and that's a key. And you go, oh, okay, get it. Get it.
Yeah.
So, and often once you show people a simple framework like that, that often puts a lot of their ducks in a row instantly. You build your repertoire. I always reckon once you get to about 12 songs, you've seen most things. I don't know if you'd agree with that. It's quite a fleeting statement, right? But once you've got to 12 songs, you've seen most rhythms. You've seen a few different time signatures, well, probably two or three. You've seen most of the chord shapes. You're likely to have done a power chord or a bar chord or a little bit of a solo. And not only are you seeing all these things, but it's so much more fun than if you were to sit and learn your scales and your chords and then you're allowed to do a song. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, it's and it implements it in, like, let's say with the graded system, it might be, here's your scale, learn it, you're going to get asked it, and here's a piece. But breaking it down that way is really good. Some students do, if it was a grade, they'd connect it and going, hey, the G major scale is in this. But when you can connect it with something modern, or old classic, I think it really helps.
I think so. But I don't know about you, but even now, if I learn a song, I'll work out the tune, and then often I don't even care what scale it's in.
Yeah.
Like, what key are you in? I don't know. Give us a minute. I don't know if it matters. I guess it does, depending on what you want to do with it, right? So if you if you want to just sound like that music and connect to it on the level that you are making that sound, then why would you want to change it or know what key you're in? It doesn't matter. But if you're going to work with a singer and now you're going to do the song, but you want to change the key,
Yeah.
then it's important. And then that saves a lot of time to know what the key is. Or if you wanted to do your own solo instead of learn the original, or maybe there isn't one, but you want to put one in, then it's important.
Yeah.
But if you just want to play the song, God, there's so many songs I've played, no idea what key it's in.
Yeah, I was at one yesterday. It was Symphony Destruction by Megadeth, and I couldn't even. I was just playing the solo, and I was looking at this, going, "Oh man, it's hilarious!" I'm just learning it, But
Yeah,
what is
yeah.
it?
I don't think you ever grow out of that, or I haven't.
Mm.
I've been doing this since 93, 4, and you still get a buzz out of learning a new song, don't you? And do you ever get asked, like, what's your favorite song? Well, my favorite song is the last one I learned.
That's good. Yeah, yeah,
And what's your favorite music? I don't know. And after a while, and this isn't the fatigue of age when I say this, right? It's not that. But after a while, it's all the same stuff, right? So
yeah,
when you're young, when you're teen, and maybe in your 20s, it's normally about the branding. Like you might like Coldplay because of how they look and how their videos are, or you might like Bon Jovi because of the hair and how cool it looks on stage with the fireworks.
yeah,
And then anything else just isn't right. But as you get older, and a lot of the youngers the youngsters we teach, they see through it anyway. But it's all the same stuff. It's just got a different packaging on it. So
yeah.
good example is that video on YouTube where Rick Astley comes out and jams with the Foo Fighters.
Oh
You'd
yeah,
never put those together. You'd never put those together. You've got one of the most iconic rock bands that came out of Nirvana, and then you've got one of the most manufactured pop icons ever. But when they hang out, it's just music.
yeah. That's so true. Yeah, it's amazing the collaborations, and especially when you see like the likes of the Foo Fighters, a chord scheme could be used that was used in a '60s song, but then it could be packaged up with
Yeah,
digital delays and synths, and it could be a Coldplay song then or
yeah.
something. Same four chords.
That's
Yeah.
an interesting one, isn't it? Does the songwriting get as strong as the production does, or
Oh, I
does the production cover it up?
Oh man, I think nowadays production is so big, like it's nuts. Um, and like with adult students, then how do you find they are for time? One thing I notice with adults is that they live busier lives, or
Yeah.
perceived busier lives sometimes, and it's how much time do you reckon adults need per day to progress on guitar?
Do you think that's different to kids? Is that why you frame it like that? Because
Um,
I think I would suggest everyone needs the same amount of time, minimum
mm,
or maximum. But and I haven't noticed a pattern. Okay, I can answer it. I'll give you a proper answer. With adults, yeah, time management is a problem, and from week to week, they usually come back and say I haven't done anything,
yeah, yeah,
and you know who's going to have done something and the ones that haven't, and then they feel a little bit bad about it. But I don't care. As long as they
mm,
come in and they enjoy playing the guitar and they hang out for an hour, who cares? But when that happens, you go back to that framework and you have that chat. Like, why are you doing
mm,
it? Why are you doing it? But then you need tools because a lot of people with time management, they are heading east looking for a sunset. Right? They've got the right idea but the wrong strategy. Yeah, or
yeah,
they're waiting at the bus stop for a train. It's not going to happen, right? So what I tend to tell people to do is try a method, and someone said it's in Atomic Habits, but again, I didn't know that. It's
I have
called,
it
I
here.
call it. Have you got it there?
Yeah, man, right here.
Yeah, I must get it. Yeah.
It's good.
So he uses a thing. I call it bolting. I don't know what he calls it, where you find something in the day that you always do that's not. It's sort of time-ish specific, but it's not, on the exact minute. Like if you walk the dog or if you have a meal, So you have a meal in the evening, but you don't really know when it's going to occur. Somewhere between 6 and 8, perhaps, but it happens at that part of the day. So what I suggest with the adults, and it works with the kids too, is bolt your practice time against that other event. So you say, right, after dinner, then I give it 10 minutes. Because done right, 10 minutes is all you need.
Yeah, when you
Equally
practice the
done
right
right.
thing. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Don't go east looking for a sunset, right? And so if you get momentum, then you want to practice more anyway, right?
Yeah.
It's not a time issue with people, it's normally a priority issue. And it can be a belief issue, especially with the teenagers. I see it a lot where they often, and you've got to have honest teenagers to figure this out, but most of our guys are great and they'll chat, right? But you, I found with a few teenagers and adults, the fear of failure gets in the way. And how that gets in the way is they don't practice, because if they do practice and then they find out that they suck, then it's real. But if I don't practice, then I've got an excuse to never find out if I suck. And that comes from another belief, right? And I think school is very responsible for this, and kind of the world, but let's blame school because it's more fun. That you are not your behavior. You are not your achievements. Achievements take effort. So you did them, you achieved them. But if you can't do something, there's an overwhelming amount of people that think they can't do it. Not that, well, if I work harder, I would be able to do it. There was a really interesting experiment with kids in a school, and they separate the class in half. They might have done it with two classes, but there was two like packets of kids, right? And regardless of the result they got, so they were given work and assignments to do, this lot were told, well done, you're so clever. And these guys were told, well done, good effort. So really a really different thing, right? You're so clever, or good effort. And then they took an exam. And then they were offered another exam above the one that should be at their level. These guys, the you're so clever, they didn't take it. They didn't risk being not good enough.
Oh, that's interesting.
These ones went, yeah, screw it, we'll have a go. Because they knew their result wasn't them. It just means that, well, let's just try harder and we'll get better.
Yeah. Man.
And that belief, it's not just with the kids. It's a more modern thing with the kids. Like by modern, I would say in the last 5 years, I've seen it more.
Yeah.
With the adults, it's always a little bit there. But see, we're lucky, right? People are already pretty motivated to find us. We've already got good mindset people, haven't we? People are already wanting to know that they've got to go on a journey of discovery and learning, to find the funds and the resources to do it, and to find the time to do it, and to book family times, and right, you have the kids and I'm going out and doing this. So we're already on a winner, because it's not a hard sell, is it? Do you want to play guitar? Well, yeah. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
But even then, even with these highly motivated, really cool people, you still get like beliefs that get in the way, which, going back to what we said earlier, is the second reason people will, hit a wall. It's either they've hit these like bits of songs and they hit the plateau, that they get to, or it's their beliefs.
Yeah, the belief.
Here's a question that anyone would say yes to. Do you think you should be further along in life than you are right now?
That's so true, yeah.
Right? Well, why? Right, because it's only a race with yourself. But I do it. We all have rules, don't we? We all have rules, and rules come from beliefs, and beliefs aren't real. They're just what we believe.
Yeah, very true, very true. And the comparison and the like certain things, the vocabulary like should, or like looking at that sort of thing, and just come back to the thing of knowing what to practice, like the 10 minutes. There was another, are you familiar with the book The One Thing?
Oh,
It's
I'm learning about a lot of good books I should have read.
yeah. I'm an absolute
Should
book
have.
nerd.
There's another should. I
That
should have read
that
these books.
that one there. It's But basically, one thing I was showing students this week was, if they have 10 minutes, like about what to practice, and it had this nice little diagram here. It was like effort and results. Hopefully, it's the right around. And
Oh yeah, nice.
putting the effort into the very small amount. So, as I'd say to students,
Yeah.
listen, if you come back next week and you say, Dave, I found 3 new chords and I learned them, and I can stick to the metronome, and that's all great stuff. But if the one thing we needed to work on was that you tackle the bar chord shape and build up the muscles, it'll stop us moving forward. So
And it comes down to those beliefs that I might not be good enough, and if I try this, or the other belief could be, there's no point in this. So there's 4 types of people in a book called The Four Tendencies
ooh,
by
okay.
Gretchen Rubin,
Oh, is she the
and
happiness project?
she is the Happiness Project, yeah. And she asked a lot of her subscribers, why do you do things? What motivates you? And basically, there's 2 driving motivators, which divides you into one of 4 categories, right? So you could, the upholder, they do things whether they're asked or whether they see the point. So either one, yeah, right, let's do it. And they're normally the super efficient people, like if you want something done, ask a busy person. That's an upholder.
Yeah.
Then you've got obligers, and they're the majority, and they're the ones where if you ask them, they'll do it. They make great employees, but they'll burn themselves out. Could you do this for me? Yeah, I'll do it for you, because they just want to be kind and helpful. Then you've got one of the minorities is what I come under, which is a questioner. So I'll only do things if I see the point. Right? So you could ask me to do it, and I could support you in getting it done. But if I don't see the value in it, either to you or me, well, let's ditch that. Yeah, but that helps me come up with the frameworks, right? So why would you teach kids a -7 flat 5 if they're never going to use it?
Yeah.
Why would you teach them a Lydian dominant scale when really what they're playing over is Coldplay? Do you know what I mean? Like you need to know
That makes
what's.
sense.
And then you get the other lot, and they're in the minority. They're the rebels. They just won't do it.
Yeah.
If you asked or they see the point, they just won't do it. So if you have a student that's a questioner, and most of ours probably are, most of ours are because they want more. They wouldn't come to us if they didn't want more. They didn't want more creativity. They didn't want more growth. They didn't want more learning. They wouldn't be with us. So they're probably going to be a questioner. Double-edged sword, right? Because on the one hand, great, we know that they're self-motivated, but on the other hand is if we show them something that they don't see the point in, like a bar chord, come on, Tim, you've got to do your bar chord. Tim's not going to do it because he doesn't see the point.
Yeah. That
I spend a lot of time telling stories to people because
they're
you're going to say the same.
go. Yeah, it's great method of teaching. It's like you're not telling them what to do if you're telling them a story.
And stories have the moral in it, don't they? That you want to know. It's not a story, but there's a really good image I've got. I give to people about the good wolf and the bad wolf. Have you seen that one?
No.
Where it's an old like Cherokee Native American fable.
Oh, which one you feed, is it?
The one you feed.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
got the bad wolf in your mind, which is all about the hate and the frustration and the resentment, and then you've got the good wolf, which is all about progress and joy and kindness. And the grandkid asked the elder, well, which one wins? Because he said there's a fight going on between these wolves. So which one wins? The one you feed. And it's a tough one, right? Because we're hardwired to see what doesn't work.
As teachers, definitely as well, because you're all the time spotting for how you can add value with how to fix the
Yeah,
thing, and you forget that
yeah,
the encouragement matters too.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's the best thing to remember as a teacher is it's never about you.
Mm.
Yeah, if a kid isn't getting it or a student isn't getting it, I always find that's my fault.
Mm.
let's say that doesn't happen a lot, right? But let's just say if someone's not understanding it, well, I've got to find a better way to explain it or another way. There might be I don't know about you, but I find the toughest ones to teach are the auditory learners.
Mm.
Visual learners, great, they get it straight away. They can see it. You give them a page in front of them, they understand it. Auditory learners, they probably make better musicians, but they make for a teacher quite a frustrating student because you're trying to show them a melody or a scale or a sort of a rule to learn, and they're off trying to pick it out already.
Yeah, with
So,
different
well, you
fingers and different positions,
yeah,
and
yeah,
if they hear the note,
exactly.
if they hear the note, they're like, "I got
Yeah,
it," and it's like it's not on that string, not with that finger, and the last note was
yeah,
over here in the fretboard, and you're gone here now, and yeah, yeah, the auditory and I've had students come to me who learned off YouTube like so well, and a thing that I definitely see is depending on what channel is teaching. So let's say your man on Marty Music, like there's no tabs. So anybody who follows him, they're building up this insane ability to copy what they see and everything like that. But
nice.
if you write a tab, they might know how to read it. And then there's this massive mismatch of ability. And it's kind of hard to humble
Yeah,
yourself if you're a brilliant ear player and you're a whiz at copying stuff and you can't play, let's say, Twinkle Twinkle on a tab, like, you know. So,
yeah, it's an interesting one. What I'll often do with those guys is I I I, I don't always write the tab.
mm,
Sometimes I do, but it's more for my benefit to remember when I see them next what we did. Um, Usually, what I'll do is I'll make sure, and it's the same with the kinesthetic learners, the ones that have to experience it to kind of lock it
yeah,
in. I'll have them repeat it enough, which is again I'll give you some science on how to repeat things.
yeah,
But once you've got it, once you've got the repetition and it's in there, you don't need the page anyway. And done right, you'd never need the page. Like there's a way to get it into your long-term memory forever.
mm,
But in the first week, of course, that's not happening, right? So what I'll just have them do is get the phone out and film me. So they do their own little video. So let's spend an hour doing it, but the last 10 minutes, I'll give it to you on your phone or iPad,
nice.
whatever it is, which is the equivalent of having tab, then, isn't it?
Yeah,
To,
true,
to them.
true. Yeah, definitely. And they're so, the youth of today, they're so video, it's all video, like, and that's what they learn the best of.
Yeah.
And it's interesting you commented on like how, let's say, teaching kids has changed, teaching guitar to kids has changed in the last 5 years. I've seen a huge shift. Like many of them don't listen to artists or albums and it's Spotify playlists. And when it comes to self-motivation and songs, it can be tricky to narrow them down to, who do you want to, what you want to learn.
I think it's a challenge for sure. And I have pondered about that same thing. I think there's probably more positives than other
Mm.
because when we were kids, if you bought an album, you had to live with it.
Yeah.
Like in every sense. Well, I don't like it. Well, live with it. But equally, you lived with it. So, especially when it was vinyl, it was an experience, wasn't it?
Mm.
Smell of it, and then the insert came out. If you were lucky, there was lyrics, and you instantly knew who the producer was because it was all in there, who the guitar was. Everything was laid out
Mm.
like an event. Everything was there. The great thing is that you learned who your favorites were, so you migrated to them, and you kind of had this sort of deep immersion into it. But the downside was, unless you knew mates that had other music, or you found a radio station that played different tunes, discovering new music was harder. Like in the 80s, 70s, 60s, the music, could you argue it's better? Maybe because I grew up with it. I don't know. There's a whole other question, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
if if you're lucky enough that the mainstream music is good, then you've got good music around you. But now it's not the case. So I think music for kids, like the stream generation, um, is valued differently. They value the music for the sake of the music. Whereas we had to value the music because you just spent 20 quid on an album and
Yeah.
you were stuck with it. So
Listening to track 15 just to make yourself like it.
just because it was, yeah. And you think, well, has it genuinely grown on me, or have I got Stockholm syndrome with this bloody record I can't get rid of? Do you know what I mean? But
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the kids now, they don't like it. Don't like it. Don't like it. I have a mate. He's Chenzo Townsend. He runs a studio, Decoy Studios.
Cool.
Produces everyone. You name it. There's a platinum record on his thing. And he pointed out to me, and I didn't even realize this, that songs don't have an intro anymore. You notice that? There's no
Yeah,
intro,
and the chorus will land under 30
right?
seconds. It's like bang.
And it's because of the streaming. And Spotify count a play. I don't know about the others, but I think it's the same. They count a play after 20 seconds. So if you can keep someone's interest and attention for 20 seconds, that will notch a play. Doesn't matter how much you listen after that. It's not like
Yeah, yeah.
more one or it's not. So that's why there's no intros, because the intros might switch off. But back in the day, like we said, we learn 1,000 intros and no songs. Where would our people be without intros? Sometimes that's the coolest bit.
Oh, totally. Yeah, the riffs, like, just you hear the riff and it's like in hell's bells. I was doing that with somebody
Yeah,
yesterday.
yeah. So I think that we could argue about the creativity within it. I don't know, but it's definitely valued differently. People
Yeah.
take the song for the song. Do you like it or not? Move on. Which in some ways that's amazing, right? You could argue the point the other way too, but I think there's more goods than bads in that situation.
Yeah, and it is what it is. There's no going back. I'm pretty sure, I don't know, pretty sure the railroad people didn't want planes coming out at the time, you know. It's so
No,
when
right.
somebody comes in, and then with, let's say, with listening to Spotify and things like that, um we're talking about the practice and the mindset, and how do you find, oh, what am I trying to ask now? How do I phrase it? Um, let's say scales in music. We were talking about they belong in the music, and how do you bring a student through like the creativity side of things then? Like we were talking a good bit there about the structure, like this is what we learn, this is how we drill it. Da-da-dum. So creativity,
Yeah,
how do you approach that with students?
pentatonic all the time.
Nice.
Pentatonic. If someone wants to do songwriting, then these books I was talking about that
Yeah.
everyone gets. On the back of it, it's this chart with all the chords in all the keys. So for songwriting, um, that's brilliant because you're basically just rearranging things, right? So if you're in
Yeah.
G, okay, so you got G, A minor, B minor, C, blah blah blah. Let's just put them around in different orders and let's be creative that way. Don't worry if they're meant to sound right; they always will. Like a harmonica in a blues key,
Yeah.
it's always going to. So then it's a case of, well, which do you prefer? And you'll only know that by getting the reps in. You just got to get your reps in and rearrange them and juggle them. But when it comes to like lead work, which is the sexier part of it
Mm.
that we like to do, um, I don't think people overcomplicate it for sure. And again, with rules like I'm not creative, rules like I'm not talented, which both aren't true. They're true if you believe them, but there's no real qualification that that is true. Um, so we always start with the pentatonic. Pentatonic's easy to learn, and the first position just fits the hand. It's a blessing, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure people will roll their eyes. Oh, pentatonic. The two things that are huge foundations for my approach are pentatonics and the cage system.
Lovely. And do you implement pentatonics with the cage system then with more advanced students?
Yeah, but what I don't do is sometimes I'll say, look, the chord. Let's say you're in B minor, right? So
Yeah.
you've got. I have a prop. So if you're in B minor, let me do that. So if you're
Cool.
in B minor, you've got there's your B minor, and
Yeah.
it's right in the middle of the pentatonic. And I always call them chordstilations. Like a star constellation.
Chordstilations. That's brilliant. You need to
So
trademark that.
I should, yeah, just done it. So you can see the chords. So first thing you'll do is you'll show them where the root note is, where is home, because everything is tense compared to how far or close it is to home. You said, look, the classic question and answer. So if you're in B, don't end on B, and then do end on B. There's like a nice resolution to it. But you could also land on any of those chord tones, providing the chord at the time is the B minor.
Yeah.
But then just on your looper, just put B minor. Like, why would you just keep on B minor and just practice? That out of context wouldn't work, but does with the chord. It kind of belongs, right? So if you got your idea of the cage system being, well, let's put a capo there. Some people, it clocks in the head different. So good example is Comfortably Numb, right? So if you wanted to play over the chords for Comfortably Numb, most people learn it because it's a cool solo.
Yeah.
But let's say you wanted to improvise over it. Well, what I get people to do, so your chords are B minor, A, G, and then there's a little like a tickle on an E minor, but it's like one beat, so we don't worry about that. So basically B minor, A, G, B minor again, and then back round. So what I'll do, I've got one up here, and this is how the cage system can work with pentatonic. So you get people to put a capo on 7.
Nice. Yeah.
And then you can play an E minor shape. That gives you the B minor. And then for the A shape, for the A chord, it's a D shape. And then it's a C shape for the G. And then you're back to there. But you remember those chordstilations, right? You've got to think about the dots and the chordstilations.
Yeah.
So lose that. All of those shapes are in or around the pentatonic.
Nice.
Just what I mean?
Yeah.
So as long as you've got the awareness of the chord, so when B minor's happening, I can play anything I want, but I'm going to sort of tickle and land on B minor notes. Then when the chord goes to an A, well, I'm picturing that D shape. And I'd never play it like a chord. You wouldn't do that, but you'd play it as separate notes. Or I might just play one of them. 2 of them are already pentatonic.
Yeah.
So I don't have to go out of the pentatonic, right? That's going to fit over the chord. Or I could be a little bit saucy and play the one that's not pentatonic.
That's right, yeah.
A little bit cheeky, right? Then we've got the C. We'd have to learn the whole C. You know, with the cage, the idea is you don't play the whole chord. You picture the whole chord, but no one really plays that as a...
No.
You might play that bit of it, which is a common little bit.
Sounds like stirring me up.
It does, doesn't it? Sounds like a million other things. That's the classic, A to D.
Yeah.
But often it's done like that. If people realize it was a C shape, I think they go, oh, I get it. Do but most people just go, well, why has it got that on it? Oh, it's because it sounds cool. I mean, if it sounds cool, it is cool. And then instead of the C shape, you might just move the D down a couple. Because the top C is D, isn't it? They're the same exact thing.
Yeah.
And then back to the B. And ending on that kind of makes more sense now, rather than... So that's how I'll blend the streams together. So creativity, always pentatonic. Learn where home is. Learn what home feels like and what home sounds like. So you know what the other value is.
Nice.
So you want to go back to buying a record again. Value each note. One thing I'm always telling people, I'm sure you relate to it, especially when they're soloing, people think they need more licks. I need more licks. You don't need more licks. You need more listening. You need to understand the point of everything you're doing, the value of it. The thing to remember is ears, not eyes. and how many people play with their eyes. Not just the visual people. Everyone does it. So if you're in B minor here, rather than thinking, well, what do I want to say and where do I want to go? People will go, oh, I can do it here. Well, why are you going up there? Like, you might not need to. Might sound cool if you do, but there's a lot of value in. And also the other one is people try and cover as much of the scale as they can. Like that's it's up there with the eyes shut. Like there's some measure of something. So one of the frameworks we use is you got to remember you're telling a story, and you might use licks to do that, or you might listen and think about where it's going to go. Like anything, you got to get your reps in. Like the more you do it, the easier it becomes, and you relax into it. But I always think you could break a solo down into either a melody or a flurry. So in other words, it's something slow enough that you could sing. Or it's a flurry, something you couldn't, like one of these.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to be one or the other. But as players, what we often think we should be doing is more of this, because that's the saucy stuff, and it's the sexy stuff, and it's almost the caricature of what you hear. You hear a guitar, but without the slower stuff, there's no value in the fast stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
So if you learn a few licks, I would suggest people learn the fast licks, like the ones you don't really think about. You just play them. But when you improvise, you're really listening, ears not eyes. Just let the story bloom, let it unfold. And whether you're looking at chord changes to allow you to do that, or if you're literally just playing the scale, if there's a formula, you can't really, can you? But I would go 3-1. I would do 3 melody phrases that buy you credits for 1 fast phrase.
I like that. Yeah, that's good.
Do you know what I mean? And it's you did it in every solo, it would be stupid, but it's as a sort of a beginner's improvising platform is quite a good thing. So you might do one small one, then you might add a bit, then a bit more. Okay, so now I've got credits, then I can kind of tail it off of that. So
Nice.
what we should do is just hours of that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works, but you've got to buy credits for that. Do you know what I
That's
mean?
true. Yeah, totally. When you see Slash like from Guns N' Roses, I was doing a Stranger with somebody lately, and it has that beautiful bending melody, and there's a small bit of fast stuff, but just it's so nice and melodic, like.
Yeah, it is. We broke down in some of the classes here. We broke down the Trooper from Iron Maiden,
Oh, hot class, nice.
right? So I said to the students, "You're going to be copying that solo." And you see the faces like, "Are you serious?" But what you're doing is you're mimicking. So we blocked the whole solo out. There's 4 lots of 4 bars,
Yeah,
and right in each bar, is it a melody or a flurry? That's all you've got to worry about: melody or a flurry. And I think the first half is in E, second half's in A, like it kind of does
yeah,
half. So what we said was if he's doing something like a bend, okay, that's melody, because
yeah,
it's a longer thing that you could potentially sing. And then if there's any of that, well, that's a flurry. So as long as you're doing like for like, it doesn't matter if you're doing the same flurry that he is. As long as it's a flurry, you get the same sort of feel. I,
that's
I
true.
think I love little catchphrases, ears over eyes and all that. And another one I really like is content over compliance. Like with a YouTube video, it's much more important what you say than the fact you've got perfect lighting or you've got the obligatory single
Yeah,
light bulb and the grey wall. Like that's nice, but that's the compliance. That's not the content. And same with music. You don't have to make sure you got the perfect tone, although these things help. You don't have to make sure you've got 100 licks that you can just do like that. It's content is everything, and you've
yeah.
got to sit in that moment and listen. And going back to that results thing, the 80-20,
Mm.
I think if people could learn 80% listening and 20% your mind is on what you're playing. We we
That's
we play, we play a game here in the school. As you can see, this is sort of the main teacher.
oh
We've got two or
lovely.
three people,
Nice.
right? And so everyone sits in a big circle, and we'll get a backing track on, or we'll just like vamp on a chord, and always to the dealer's left. We'll go in a circle. Then the next one does a solo. Next one does a solo. But what happens, even if it's just in a pair or just me and a student, they don't listen to what you're doing because they're more worried about what they're about to do.
Yeah,
So,
true.
so and as a skill, you need that. You know, you need to get ready. Right after in 4 bars, I'm coming in. That's an important part of it. But it's not as important as hearing what you're playing over and feeling what you're playing over. Like the groove in internally, how
Mm.
you feel it. That's everything. You could play one note if you're feeling it right. It counts, yeah.
Yeah.
So what we do is we say, right, the person that you follow as you go around in a circle, the one you follow, you have to put something in your playing they just did.
Oh,
And
that's good. I like it.
the mind shift changes, right? And it could be anything. They go, why am I going to copy that? Like, and you're copying that, you're listening to that, right? And you might have noticed they played two strings together. Just do that. Like, who
Lovely.
cares what the rest of the phrase was? You're just listening, right? Or well, he did a slide, so I did a slide. Or they took A up to the dusty end and did A up there, so I did that. And it just like that shift in your mind of listening rather than waiting to play. It's so different.
Yeah, I
But then
like
what
that. That's good.
then what happens? It just changes the goalpost, right? So instead of just waiting, you're not listening to anyone except the one before you. Right? That's the next thing that happens, right? You see it. So you go, right, let's randomize it. So what then is the person that's playing calls out the next person's name. So you don't know who it's going to be. Everyone's listening to everyone. And I tell you what's interesting, no one throws up. You kind of expect people are going to faint or pass out or throw up. What happens is everyone's playing calms down and suddenly it becomes lyrical, musical, the phrase and the feel increases because your attention and your focus is on everything at every moment in that room, like it would be if you were in a band.
Mhm.
If there's a lot of other things going on in your head when you're on stage, you're thinking about volumes, balances, audience, attention, what the next song might be if you're rearranging the songs. There's so many things happening in your brain, right? But you're essentially focusing most of your efforts in the moment. And as a teacher, to get a student to be able to do that, that I think for me with the improvising, which is what started that whole
Yeah,
question, right?
yeah.
If the more in the moment you are, the more in tune you are in every sense. And your playing just becomes stronger, not necessarily faster or more flamboyant, or there's no fireworks and doves being released when you play.
Yeah.
It just means that there's a there's a grounded power in what you're playing.
That's so cool. I like it. I like it. Jeez, for people watching, you'll have to try that. Grab some mates, bring them around in a circle, or for their teachers. Listen, Richard, this is great. And so I think we'll have to wrap up shortly, unfortunately, which is hopefully we'll get to chat again. Man, I could chat with you for hours. I'm learning a lot here
Anytime, mate.
myself.
Yeah,
I'm taking notes.
I've got books. I've actually written down a few books to get now.
Lovely, yeah, yeah. And for anybody watching as well, I'll include links underneath to the Gretchen Rubin. I think you can do that assessment on her website if I remember rightly. I did it
I
years
think
ago.
you're right, mate. I think you're
Yeah,
right.
I'll
Yeah.
share that underneath as well. And so, before I get to the final question, Richard, where people can find out more about you, I'll include a link underneath this video. Does that sound okay?
It's amazing. Thank you. Yeah, if you Google me, you'll find me, Richard Deyn,
Brilliant.
Deyn. I am on the platforms, but not very active. I will be shortly. So
That's
yeah,
okay.
what we'll do is we'll get a shiny new link that if you're happy to share, we'll put that underneath.
100%, 100%. Thanks, Richard. So, um, my AirPods are about to die, I think, unfortunately. So I might have to switch to this a second. But before I do that, so what would be your number one piece of advice to a guitarist learning guitar on the internet right now?
Number one, can I have two?
Yeah, go for it.
Number one is know why you're doing it. And it's never as obvious as you think. But if you keep reminding yourself why you're doing it, you get that instant learning curve, don't you? Like the excitement, like you've got all the new gear and you're hearing new music and you're learning your scales and you've got a solo in a song. That's rapid, that sense of growth at the beginning. But it soon trails off. And you have to do a lot more to get a bit more growth. And if you know why you're doing it, you're 90% there. So if you're building a repertoire and you change your rules halfway through, got a friend, right? I have a friend. I have just one single friend. And she was last year, she was the world's strongest woman. So whatever she says, I just agree with. Yeah, fine. Right. And a few years ago, she went to the World Champions. So she'd done Britain's Strongest Woman, and she went to the World Champions. And before she went, I said, "What are your goals? Like, what are you aiming for?" She said, "I just want to be in the top 5." Right? Well, that's amazing, right? If you're in the top 5 of whatever you're doing, you're doing all right. She came back. "How did you do?" She says, "I came 4th." I'm like, "Amazing." And she was depressed. She's like, "It's not amazing. I'm not happy about it." So, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Well, at the start of the event, I was doing really well. In fact, I was winning. You know how they sort of the tables keep changing?" Yeah. She said, "I was winning for a number of events. And then suddenly one event happened and I wasn't winning anymore." Really quickly, what happened, it was the pulling the truck.
Oh, yeah.
Pulling the truck. And you have 2 whistles. You have a whistle when you're over the line, and then you have a whistle when your truck's over the line. So you know to stop pulling, right?
Yeah.
So she heard her first whistle. Obviously, she knew because she was over the line. She heard her second whistle and stopped. But it wasn't her second whistle. It was next door's first whistle. I know. And a bit awkward, right? It's a really tricky situation. So she went from being the leader to like dropping down. And so she came back and she's all upset. She said, "Well, why are you upset? Like, you went with, I want to be in the top 5. I mean, you did it." The problem she had is she changed the rules halfway through. Right?
Yeah.
She lost sight of what her goal was. So she still got it. And if you know what your goals are, it's so easy to get taken off track. So if your goal is to learn 12 songs or 3 songs to do an open mic, just do that. Don't get sidetracked by the people going, "Well, you should try alternate tunings," or "You need a different guitar or a different pick," or "Oh yeah, but if you're going to do that, you should do that song." Yeah. Stick to your goal. It's only a race with yourself, like we said that. So you need to be so honest with why you're doing it and just stick to it. That's the number one thing. Number 2, find someone that's got the result you want. So don't worry about YouTube or books if that's not going to help you. Because if you're heading east looking for a sunset, it doesn't work. You want to find someone very specific that's got the specific goals you want and somehow get them to show you. And it might be you watch their YouTube, or it might be you pay them for lessons, or it might be you get them on the phone and ask them. Those would be the 2 top things. Know what you want and find someone very specifically that can help you get it.
Brilliant. That's so good. Yeah, it's so true. Because when you think back on years ago, before YouTube was a thing, that's what people had to do. Had to find somebody and they saw it, and they weren't having like, in fact, if you think of video thumbnails as people, nowadays you could be trying to do the thing you're doing, you'll have 8 to 10 other things around you, cleverly designed thumbnails trying to bring you into that little thing, and kind of wraps into what we were saying about people having bits of songs. That's,
Exactly that. And my guys do it here. They'll come for lessons. I'll show them a song, and they'll come back and they'll say, "You know how you showed me to play that? Well, I've gone on YouTube and this other guy says do it differently." I'll do it differently then. Doesn't matter. But it's somehow there's a right and a wrong.
Yeah.
It's curious, right? Because this is an art. It's not a science. There's a science for how things work, like your constellations and your frameworks and your mindset. But there's an art to fulfillment within it.
Yeah. Definitely, and it's it's sometimes you see videos of artists playing their own solo a different way, gig to gig, or strumming chords with a different pattern. But man,
Yeah,
thanks so much for hopping on.
you're welcome. Do you know what I was going to say about that for
Yeah.
someone starting? There's beginners overanalyze. A beginner is really hard on themselves. So if you make a mistake, you read so much into that mistake. You're good, you're so clever, or well done, good effort. Whereas someone like you and I that's been doing it a little bit longer, you kind of let go.
Mm.
Beginners hold on, experience lets go.
Yeah, definitely. And it's when you look at how far you can come on the instrument, and I don't know, mistakes to me are feedback. They're like you just
Yeah,
get the
good word.
feedback and you go, right, okay, what am I doing with it? And has this happened before? Or like what you're saying, who has this happened to? What did they do? Can I try that on that approach and see how
Yeah,
it works? You know?
it doesn't even matter. Might
No.
not even matter.
Yeah, forget. Like once you have something working, you'll forget where the mistakes were. You'll be focusing
Yeah.
on the next mistake. Well, man, thanks so much for hopping on. I'll stop the recording here. Everybody
Welcome.
who's been watching, please check Richard out. He's a great dude, and you'll find his link below this. And it's your pentatonic course that is coming out this year, isn't it?
Yeah, the pentatonic tonic. So it's
Love
for
it.
people that can play a little bit, and the pentatonic ends up just sounding like a scale. How do I not make it sound like a scale?
Brilliant. Well, no doubt, geez, I'll be checking that course out myself. Man, I love your insights. Lovely, unique insights. So thanks so much for hopping on, and
Thank
hopefully
you.
we'll chat soon.